Hi guys, we're going to be working on another parabola sketch here today. We're working off this equation here, y equals 3x squared minus 15x minus 18. Just like our first video where we found the points and sketched the parabola of an equation using the null factor law. We're going to be following the same steps. Step 1, going to find the x-intercepts. Step 2, find the y-intercept. Step 3, find the x and y coordinates of the turning point. Step 4, once we have all those points, we can plot and sketch our graph. Keep in mind when we're looking for our x and y intercepts, we're looking for both an x and y value, but always keep in mind that our x-intercepts is where our parabola crosses our x-axis, and when our parabola crosses our x-axis, the y value along here, so we go 2, 1, our y value along here is equal to our origin, which is a point of 0, 0. So our y value at our x-intercept is 0. In our first example in step 1, we used the null factor law. But this time around, just because we've got a little bit of a difficult quadratic in terms of our quadratic equation, our a value here, it's got a 3 in front of it. It's a little bit messy when we try and use the salt and pepper factorization. So we are going to go with the quadratic equation method. First thing we need to do is identify our a, b, and c values. So our a value is 3, our b value is negative 15, and our c value is negative 18. So we all remember our quadratic equation formula, which is a negative b value plus or minus, because we've got two coordinates, the square root of b squared minus 4ac. But we didn't need quite a big square root there. Let's make that a little bit more manageable. Over 2 lots of a. So first step, guys, we're just subbing in. We've got an a value here. Put that into there. Got a b value here. I'm just going to sub that into the formula there. And we've got a c value here, which we'll sub in there. So if we write that out, we've got negative lots of negative 15, our b value, plus or minus, because we're looking for 2 x-intercepts, b squared, so negative 15 squared, minus 4, got an a value of 3, and we have a c value of, swapped to a razor, got a negative value of negative 18, and that's all over 2 lots of our a value of 3. So we just do some multiplication here. We've got a negative lot of a negative value, so it becomes positive 15, so x equals. Remembering that this equation is x equals, sorry guys, you're confused, remember we're looking for our x values here. So x equals positive 15 plus or minus square root. So negative 15 times negative 15 is 225. Becomes a positive because a negative times a negative. And we're going minus 4 times 3 times negative 18 gives us negative 216. And that is all over 2 lots of 3, which is 6. So we can do a bit more simplification for ourselves. So we've got x, still 15 plus or minus. So 225 minus negative 16 becomes addition because we've got two positives there. So 225 plus 216 gives us 441 all over 6. And then x equals 15 plus or minus the square root. Nope. So now we're just going to square root that 441, make it easy for ourselves. Square 441 gives us a value of 21, and that's all over 6. So this plus or minus here, guys, kept on saying that it means we're looking for two coordinates. So what that means is we're going to have two equations over here. First, our x1 is going to equal 15 plus 21 divided by 6. So 15 plus 21 equals 36 divided by 6 equals 6. So our x1 has a value of 6. Now x2 is going to be 15 minus 21, because remember we had plus and minus, divided by 6. And that's going to be x2 equals negative 6 divided by 6. So x2 equals negative 1. So remember, when we're talking about these values, we're talking about our x and our y coordinates. We found the two x values, and we remembered before that at the x-intercept, y equals 0. So our two intercepts are going to be 6 and 0. Here's 1. And then our next one is going to be negative 1 and 0. So let's put these up there. We've got 6 and 0. We've got negative 1 and 0. And that is how we complete step 1. Next step, step 2, which is finding our y-intercept. And just as we were talking about when we talk about our x-intercept, our y-axis is here. When our parabola crosses over this y-axis, the x value, just like it was with the y and the x-intercept, is going to be 0 at this point here. It's going to be 0 at the origin. That's 0, 0. So x value is 0. So the simple process to find our y-intercept is to write down our original equation again, which is y equals 3x squared minus 15x minus 18. And we're just going to sub in, or we'll say let x equals 0. And that is because x equals 0 at the y-intercept. So now that we're doing that, just sub it into this equation. It will tell us what y is. So y equals 3 lots of 0 squared minus 15 lots of 0 minus 18. And that means that y equals 0 minus 0 minus 18. And that means y equals negative 18. Once again, we're talking in terms of x and y coordinates. So our coordinates will be 0 because we let x equal 0 up here, because the value of x and the y-intercept is 0, and our y value at that point is negative 18. So we've gone up here, And we now have x value 0, negative 18 as our points. Step 3, guys, is finding our turning point. Now, last time we used the formula for finding our turning point if we have our x coordinates. We could use this, that would be completely fine. The other option is to use our turning point formula, which we learned about in class. Just quickly switch over to that so you guys remember what I was talking about. Our turning point formulas. This turning point formula here, guys, is what I'm talking about. So our x of our turning point equals negative b over 2a. Oh. So that formula, our x of our turning point equals our negative b over 2a. And when they're talking about our b's and a's, guys, remember they're talking about this quadratic situation up here, that quadratic expression. So we already found what those values were up here. So our a is 3 and our b is negative 15. So remember our a was 3, our b was negative 15, and our c equals negative 18. So in this formula, we just sub these values in again. So we have our a value, that goes in there. We have our b value, that goes up there. So we have the x of our turning point equals negative 15 over 2 lots of 6. Sorry, skipped ahead of there. 2 lots of 3. So our x turning point equals negative 15 over 6. And that can give us a turning point of positive 15 because we've got this and this. So we've got a 15 over 6, and you put 15 over 6 in your calculator, it gives you 2.5. So that's our x coordinate, remember? Talking in terms of coordinates of x and y. We've just found our x, 2.5, and we're looking for our y value now. So to find that, sub it into our original equation, which was y equals 3x squared minus 15x minus 18. And now we're going to say let our x value be 2.5, this value here. We're going to let it be that. So then we just sub 2.5 into these positions here to solve our equation and find out what y is at this point. So y is going to be 3 lots of 2.5 squared minus 15 times 2.5 minus 18. So 2.5 times 2.5 times 3 gives us 18.75. So that was 2.5 squared times 3 minus 15 times 2.5, which is 37.5, and that is minus 18.75 minus 37.5 minus 18. Sorry guys, I'm going to stop with my calculator. That should have been pretty obvious. Y equals negative 36.75. So what that means, guys, is that our y value, in terms of our x and y coordinates, bringing down this x value from here, so at 2.5, our y value is negative 36.75. So we just bring that data up here. So our turning point is at 2.5 and negative 36.75. Okay, last thing to do is plot and sketch the graph. My graph that I've set up isn't quite ready for that, so I'll do that in another video for you guys.